It was my son's birthday and I gave him a call. I'd have loved to come to your birthday party, if my poor health didn't leave me barely able to walk. On the video call, Daniel gave a careless shrug. Don't bother coming. Dad and Nicole are already here. Nicole is the only mom I recognize. I froze, my mind turning blank and hazy. What on earth are you rambling about? I demanded through clenched teeth. He yanked a family photo out of his backpack and shook it fiercely right at the camera. You're about to die, so I'm telling you the truth. For the past 20 years, Nicole's lived with my dad. They even have a daughter together. My sister just got her acceptance letter to NYU. We're going out for a big dinner later to celebrate her graduation. I stood there stunned, like a ton of bricks had crashed down on me. Then he said something even crueler. Remember that state school you got into years ago? Dad handed your acceptance spot and scholarship over to Nicole. She's the one who took your spot and graduated in your place. My eyes flew wide open. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. His voice was cold, dripping with mockery. Dad took me in and shut you out for good. Too bad for you that you were so desperate to find me. Once a chance slips away, it's gone for good. I couldn't believe my ears. Back then I'd been hit by a speeding truck while trying to find my son. I lost the use of my legs, my face was destroyed, and I lost one eye. I'd turned into a broken, pitiful joke played on by life. Consumed by endless regret and resentment, I drew my final breath. The next second I opened my eyes. I was back in 1981, and the State University acceptance letter was sitting quietly in the mailbox. Sweetheart, it's okay if you didn't get in, James said with a shrug, barely looking at me. No one would want a housewife with a child to take care of. My eyes snapped open, my heart pounding. He turned to Nicole, a small smile on his lips. Congratulations, Nicole. City life and college are waiting for you. Nicole held his arm, her voice soft. Thanks to James. And to you too, Grace. For all your help over the years. I stared at her, the fury from my death burning inside my chest. James switched channels on the couch, speaking lazily. You've tried your hardest, Grace, but luck simply never favored you. There's always next year. Daniel shot into the room like a little rocket. He jumped onto the couch, raising his hands in the air. Congrats on getting into college, Nicole. I knew you could do it. Nicole patted his head gently, her face full of warmth. She pulled an avocado from her pocket, cut it open, added a squeeze of lemon juice and a pinch of salt, and scooped out a small bite with a spoon. A little California-style treat, she said. Daniel took it happily, chewing and laughing. Nicole's the best. I looked down at my own lunch, cold leftover potatoes and canned soup, and a cold dread settled over my heart. 3 months ago, I'd scrimped and saved to buy a whole case of avocados to surprise Daniel. Now all that was left in the fridge were a few eggs and some milk. I turned around, my voice cold as ice. Nicole, that avocado in your hand. Where did it come from? Nicole froze and moved slightly behind James. It's just a little fruit, Grace. Daniel was craving it. James frowned, stepping in front of her. It's nothing. Nicole just wanted to make the boy happy. Grace, you're making a huge fuss over nothing. My fists clenched. My breathing quickened. That was my money. I bought those for Daniel. Nicole's eyes glistened. She bit her lip, looking wounded. I didn't mean to take it. Daniel shook his head and gave me a look of disgust. I don't want any fruit from a loser. Nicole's the only one I care about. I looked at that child, the son I'd given birth to, the son I'd raised, and felt like a hammer had struck my chest. I turned and walked upstairs. The bedroom door slammed shut behind me. Downstairs, Nicole's soft voice floated up. James, is Grace upset? Maybe I shouldn't even go off to college now. James sighed, his tone soothing. She'll get over it. Grace always blows off steam and gets over it quickly. That night, James fumbled to peel an apple for me, his voice wheedling. Grace, Nicole moved here from California. She's used to a finer way of living. She didn't think anything of taking a little fruit. Don't hold it against her. He tried to put his arm around me, but then Nicole's pained voice came from outside. James, my stomach hurts. That night, James never came back. The next morning, as soon as Nicole saw me, she put on a pitiful look. Grace, don't misunderstand. I had a stomachache yesterday. James was just worried about me, so he stayed by my side. She came closer and reached for my hand. And about college, don't feel bad. Once I start making money, I'll never forget you too. When Nicole first moved to town, I'd heard she was a woman betrayed by her husband. I felt sorry for her. I helped her in so many ways. I even changed the light bulb in her living room. I shared my study plans with her. I encouraged her to work and study part-time just like me. I wanted to go to college more than anything. When some men in town started spreading rumors about her and trying to harass her, I didn't hesitate. I gathered my friends and stood outside her door until we chased those men away. I treated her with nothing but kindness for years, only to find she'd been seeing my husband behind my back. I stepped aside, avoiding her outstretched hand, and said flatly, "Is that right? Well, thank you." Nicole paused for a second, glanced toward James's room and sighed. "Look, Grace. Not everyone gets the same breaks in life. James said college is simply out of your league." Every word circled back to James. Every one of them cut me deep. She quickly covered her mouth, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, that came out really harsh. I didn't mean a word of it." Just then James walked out of his room. When he saw the scene, his face darkened. "Grace, Nicole is alone in this town. You have a family. Try to be generous. Don't turn this into an awkward, messy situation." "James, it's not Grace's fault." I put my foot in my mouth and upset her. Nicole leaned into James, her eyes reddening. James gave her shoulder a sympathetic pat, then looked at me with disappointment in his eyes. I stared at the marks on James's neck, gave a cold snort and pointed. "You're certainly generous with your affection." He tugged at his collar awkwardly and opened his mouth to explain. I didn't want to hear it. "I'm heading into town. Let's all go together then," he said. "Nicole getting into college is wonderful news. We'll go to a nice restaurant and celebrate." We drove to the nearby city, where the biggest Greyhound station was. James spotted a pair of Levi's jeans and said excitedly to Nicole, "These would be perfect on you." Then he tugged my sleeve. "Don't you think so, Grace? This outfit would be great for Nicole to wear when she starts college." I looked down. On my feet were James's work boots, too big and uncomfortable. Nicole was wearing fashionable new leather boots. She tried on the jeans and twirled happily in front of the mirror, looking just like a sunny California girl. James smiled warmly, his eyes full of affection for her. When I'd been quiet for a while, James checked his watch. "Grace, you're probably tired. Why don't you take the bags and wait for us in the parking lot? Nicole and I are going to the post office. She needs to mail her enrollment confirmation before the deadline." I followed them quietly. I thought they were going to the post office. Instead, they walked into a photo studio at the mall. Nicole leaned against James's shoulder. The photographer told them to move closer. At that moment, they didn't look like neighbors. They looked like a couple about to run off and get married. Watching the blissful smile on James's face, I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palms. "James, you want to use my acceptance letter to buy your bright future with her? Dream on." After we got back from the city, we sat down for dinner. James waved his hand confidently. 3 days from now, we're throwing a backyard barbecue right here to celebrate." My hand froze mid-bite of bread. I looked up at him. "A party? Who's going to do the grilling?" James blinked. "Come on, Grace. Don't be such a buzzkill." I kept pushing. "Who's gonna make the potato salad? Who'll wash the dishes and tidy the living room afterward? Most of all, where are we getting money for all this food?" His face stiffened. "You've still got that piggy bank, haven't you? That money is for Daniel's school breakfasts and our monthly mortgage this month." I shot to my feet. He brushed it off casually. "My check will be here before long. We can cover the bills later." His check. We'd been married all these years, and he always hoarded every cent he earned. I had to beg him over and over just to get a little for household money. One day I saw him put a box of premium cut steaks in the fridge. I thought it was a nice surprise for the family. The next day the steaks were gone. Instead, Nicole bragged to me about how delicious the steaks she'd had the night before were. I used to overlook things like that, but now I couldn't stand them anymore. I clenched my fists and sneered. "I'll bet your paycheck all goes to Nicole. I put in work all week long. I have the right to decide where my money goes." James slammed his hand on the table. I bit my lip and turned my head away, fighting to hold back my trembling. I'm not coming to your party. I have a part-time job. What's the point of that tiny income you scrape up? James scoffed. I covered Daniel's school breakfasts his entire elementary years. I even bought a brand new oven for the house. I shouted. What have you ever done for this family? Caught off guard by my sharp questions, he looked thoroughly sheepish. But Daniel set his bowl in the sink, walked to the living room doorway and said to me, Suit yourself then. No party it is. You're such a stick in the mud. Mom. He kicked over the garbage can, let the rubbish spill across the floor, and bolted out of the house. We'll find another way to celebrate, he yelled from outside on purpose. I covered my mouth and sank onto the sofa, my body shaking with exhaustion. The next day, gossip started spreading around town. Hey, did you hear? James is throwing a party to celebrate getting into college. But didn't Grace get rejected? James is throwing it for Nicole. You know how it is, they've always been more than just neighbors. I even saw James buying Nicole new clothes. They sat on a bench together, chatting about how great life in the city will be. They didn't even notice me walk by. By evening, Nicole showed up at our door with red, swollen eyes. Grace, I trusted you completely. How could you go around spreading rumors about me and your husband? Are you just jealous I got into college? Why would you hurt me in the worst way possible? I'll even step aside and let you take my college spot. Just stop ruining my reputation. James held her tight, his eyes red with sympathy. Daniel stood between Nicole and me, staring at me with a look of suspicion and disgust. Nicole sobbed against James's chest, barely able to catch her breath. James whirled around and glared at me, his eyes blazing. Grace Whitman. Nicole got into college because she deserved it. You didn't. I didn't spread anything, I said calmly, meeting his eyes. Then who did? You're just green with envy over Nicole's acceptance. James ground his teeth in fury. Daniel picked up a crumpled ball of paper from the trash and threw it at me. No wonder Dad's had enough of you. You mess everything up. Quit playing the victim card. Every word he spoke sliced right through my heart. I stared at Daniel's face, twisted with anger, and my heart lurched. Past life memories crashed over me in a tidal wave. In that other life, James and Nicole got into a car accident on their way to drop her off at college. Both were killed instantly in the crash. Before I left to deal with the news, I left Daniel with Mrs. Turner next door. But when I came back, exhausted and heartbroken, with James's death notice in hand, I found out Daniel had disappeared. In just a few days I'd lost my husband and my child. I was utterly hopeless that I stood by the river many times, ready to end it all. But every time I thought of Daniel waiting for me to save him, I forced myself to keep going. I worked 4 separate part-time jobs every single day and traveled from city to city, searching for him. Then I was hit by a truck. I became permanently disabled and scavenging for garbage to get by. But I never stopped looking for him. Finally, I got in touch with one of James's cousins and found Daniel. But by then I was so sick I could barely leave my hospital bed. And in the end I didn't get a warm reunion with Daniel. I got his mockery. He told me that James and Nicole had taken him in years ago, and he'd lived a good life for 20 years. All my sacrifice, all my pain, every hardship hammered away at my soul relentlessly. I want a divorce. I finally said the words. James raised his hand and landed a brutal slap straight across my cheek. I stumbled and fell to the ground. Blood seeped from the corner of my mouth, leaving a bitter metallic taste. Look, she's playing the victim again, Daniel cheered from the sidelines. He picked up a rock and hurled it at me. The sharp stone hit my forehead. Pain shot through me and warm blood blurred my vision. Daniel, what are you doing? A neighbor who'd had enough shouted at him. She bullied Nicole. She deserves it. Daniel shot back without missing a beat. A flicker of remorse flashed across James's face, and he started toward me, until Nicole let out a faint whimper and collapsed into his arms. Nicole, are you okay? He lifted her in his arms, then shoved me into the garage and locked the door. Sit in there and think long and hard about your actions. You're not coming out until Nicole forgives you. 2 days later, the party went off without a hitch. Balloons hung in the yard and the living room. Nearly everyone in town came. James wore a new button-down shirt and jacket. Nicole wore her new jeans. They leaned on each other like a newlywed couple. My James, what a fancy party you've put together. Nicole, don't forget to visit us once you're in the city. We'll miss you. Basking in everyone's praise, Nicole grinned triumphantly. James beamed as if he were the one going off to college. The party was at its peak. Everyone raised their glasses in a toast. Then a terrified shout rang out. Fire! The garage is on fire. Everyone turned. Thick smoke poured from the garage, and flames had already reached the roof. James's face went pale. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the ground. Hurry! Put it out! He yelled in a panic. James, wait! Nicole grabbed his arm, a malicious flicker in her eyes. I think Grace is still upset with me. She might be trying to wreck my party. Dad, that woman got out a long time ago, Daniel said, not even looking up from his pizza. She just hates seeing you succeed. Don't fall for it. James burned with instant fury. He turned and roared at the townspeople who were about to fetch water. Stop! Nobody put it out. A neighbor spoke up. James, I think I saw Grace's coat caught in the garage door. What if she's still locked in there? Nicole's eyes instantly welled up. She tugged at James's sleeve. This doesn't look good for you. Maybe you should save her. I don't mind if she keeps insulting me. I've long grown used to her harsh words. She got out on her own. She's not in there. James pulled Nicole close and turned a cold stare on the crowd. She's been attacking Nicole every chance she gets. And now she set the garage on fire just to destroy Nicole's celebration. I'll take responsibility if anyone gets hurt. Anyone who tries to put out this fire is defying me directly. James was determined to teach me a lesson. The fire grew bigger and bigger. Just then, the shrill scream of police sirens came from the end of the driveway. 2 officers stepped out. James Whitman, Nicole Harrington. We need to ask you a few questions regarding mail theft, falsified school records, and scholarship fraud. The noise in the yard died the instant the sirens started wailing. 2 county patrol cars pulled up outside the white picket fence. The red and blue lights swept across the balloons, paper plates, grill, and James's new shirt, and they also lit up Nicole's face, which had turned ghost white. Sheriff Robert Daniels stepped out of the first car, followed by 2 deputies. On the other side, 2 volunteer firefighters were already dragging hoses toward the garage. James froze for a beat, then plastered on a fake smile and hurried over. Sheriff Daniels, this is just a small party. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Robert didn't return his smile. His eyes scanned the yard, then settled on James and Nicole. James Whitman, Nicole Harrington. His voice wasn't loud, but everyone could hear it. You'll need to come down to the station with us. We're investigating stolen postal items, forged college documents, and scholarship fraud. The second the words left his mouth, the yard erupted. The smile froze on James's face. Nicole shrieked. No, you've got the wrong person. I'm the one who got into State University. Robert looked at her coldly. You can explain yourself at the sheriff's office. The 2 deputies stepped forward. James backed away instinctively. Nicole grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. It's Grace. Nicole wailed, tears streaming down her face. She's the one lying. She's jealous of me, always has been. Just then, the side door of the garage pushed open from the inside. Through the thick smoke I stepped out, holding a wet towel over my mouth and nose. My face was smudged with black soot, and a dark crust of dried blood crusted over the gash on my forehead. But I stood straight. Robert, I said, my voice hoarse. You came just in time. Everyone in the yard turned to look at me. James went pale. Grace, so you were inside the whole time? Are you out of your head? You torched the garage just to set Nicole up. I didn't answer him. Instead, I looked at Daniel, who was standing behind Nicole. The 15-year-old boy's face was white. His lips trembled. Moments ago, he'd been sitting on a folding chair eating pizza, watching the fire spread without a care. Now that he saw me walk out alive, he was finally scared. I let out a quiet laugh. Daniel, why don't you tell the sheriff how the fire started? Daniel shook his head hard. It wasn't me. I just kicked over a gas can. Nicole said you'd already gotten out. She said it was just supposed to scare you. James spun around to face him. What did you say? Daniel flinched at his father's shout. Tears started falling. I didn't know she was still inside. Nicole said she deserved to learn a lesson. She said if I helped her, once she got to the college town, she'd take me to live in an apartment with a color TV and a VCR. Nicole's face went completely pale. Daniel, she screamed. What are you talking about? You're 15 years old. Don't blame this on me. You hate your mother all on your own. James's eyes darted back and forth between Daniel and Nicole. For the first time his expression cracked. But I had no interest in watching them tear each other apart. Robert looked at the wound on my forehead, and his face darkened. Mrs. Whitman, I'm sorry we're late. The materials you gave me this morning, we've already checked them with the State University Admissions Office and the Post Office. A postal inspector from the county is on his way. The townspeople looked at each other in confusion. What's going on? Mrs. Turner couldn't help asking. Sheriff, are you saying Grace was the one who got accepted? Robert turned to face everyone in the yard. Yes. According to the State University Admissions Office, the person who was accepted is Grace Whitman. Her official admissions paperwork, state scholarship notice, and student aid documents were taken from her mailbox. Then someone forged her signature to transfer the admission and the financial aid to Nicole Harrington. The air seemed to vanish from the yard. A moment later someone gasped. Nicole shook her head. Tears had smeared her makeup beyond recognition. No. Robert's voice grew even colder. And then there's the fire. Daniel Whitman, you're coming with us too. You're a minor, but you're plenty old enough to account for what went on tonight. Daniel finally panicked. Dad. James didn't answer. He just stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. And I stood there in the smoke and the flashing lights watching them calmly. This time I wasn't taking the fall for anyone. The party's raucous noise died the second the sirens blared. Grace got into college all along? Nicole stole her acceptance letter? Was James in on this? The guests who'd just been fawning over Nicole moments before now stared at her with unmasked contempt. Nicole tried to hide behind James, but she saw that he was shaking too. Mrs. Turner's voice turned sharp with anger. James Whitman, you let your wife slave away in this kitchen for years on end, and then you stole her college chance and gave it to another woman? Someone looked at the new leather boots on Nicole's feet, then at James's new shirt. Disgust etched across their faces. No wonder they dressed up like a newlywed couple today. Grace even fixed her light fixtures and defended her from all the town gossip. Those two are disgusting. Nicole couldn't take the stairs. She fell to her knees on the grass, sobbing. It wasn't me. I didn't know. James gave me the letter. Thought it was really mine. James whipped his head toward her. Nicole, don't yell at me, she screamed. You're the one who said a housewife like Grace going to college was a waste. You said she should stay home and take care of you and Daniel. The crowd buzzed with more shocked murmurs. I didn't say anything. I just took a manila envelope from Robert. It was the new set of admission materials from the State University. I'd previously requested the admissions office reroute all my official documents away from my home address. They sent it straight to the county sheriff's office, and Robert held it for me. The envelope bore faint edge creases, stamped with a crisp, legible postmark. I looked down at it, and I remembered my past life. That whole summer I'd waited. Each morning I'd check the mailbox. When I returned empty-handed time and again, I kept telling myself the letter would arrive the next day. It turned out I wasn't waiting for a letter that never came. They'd stolen my future right out from under me. James's voice shook. Grace, when did you go to the sheriff? I looked up and met his eyes calmly. Well, you sent me to the parking lot so you could take Nicole to get that picture taken. That day at the mall, I didn't stand around by the Greyhound station waiting for them. I went to the post office. I asked the clerk what to do if someone took a college acceptance letter from a residential curbside mailbox. The clerk told me to call the sheriff's office. And he told me that stolen mail and scholarship paperwork might also require a report to a postal inspector. So I went to the station. Robert didn't believe me at first. A small-town housewife. A woman whose husband told people she was unstable, saying her acceptance letter was stolen. It sounded like a typical messy domestic dispute. But I provided my application ID, the university's name and admissions contact number, along with my exam scores, copies of recommendation letters and application confirmation receipt. Robert called the admissions office right there in front of me. There was a long silence on the phone. Then the person on the other end told him that not only had Grace Whitman been accepted, but she'd also gotten a state scholarship and a federal grant that required her signature to confirm. And the signature on the confirmation form didn't look like mine. James's face went gray. "Grace," he said, struggling to get the words out. "I'm your husband. If you get me locked up, how do you plan to get by on your own?" I laughed. "I'll take care of myself." I turned to Robert. "Sheriff Daniels, I also want to file official reports. James unlawfully locked me inside the garage, and Daniel physically assaulted me. Nicole knew I was trapped inside and actively stopped witnesses from extinguishing the fire." Robert looked at Daniel, then at the garage still burning in the background. His expression turned grim. "We'll take full notes. Everyone here will have to give a witness statement later on." James finally looked desperate. "Grace, Daniel's just a kid." I looked at Daniel, who was standing on the grass shaking all over. "He's 15 years old. He knows full well what pain and fear are. He knew exactly what he was doing when he threw that rock at me. And he stood there while the garage burned and said I deserved it." Daniel's head shot up. For the first time, I was truly free from the suffocating confines of that old house. "Mom." It was the first time he'd called me that all night. But I didn't want to hear it anymore. "Take them away, Robert." Robert nodded. The two deputies led James and Nicole toward the patrol cars. Another deputy took Daniel aside, where a juvenile affairs officer stood by to take him into custody. He thrashed and sobbed uncontrollably the entire time. "Dad! Nicole! Don't abandon me!" No one answered him. The patrol lights blazed over their disheveled, defeated backs. And I held that late acceptance letter in my arms. For the first time, I really felt like I walked out of that house for good. The interrogation room at the sheriff's office was bitterly cold. A faded calendar hung on the wall. An old tape recorder sat on the table, its reels turning slowly with a faint, granular whir. James sat across from me, his hands cuffed together. He looked a decade older, worn thin in an instant. The moment he saw me walk in, he thrashed in his chair. "Grace! Grace, tell them this is all a misunderstanding. I acted foolishly, and I never meant to hurt you." I didn't sit down. I slid a few photos across the table toward him. They were taken at the photo studio in the mall. In them, he and Nicole leaned their heads together, smiling like a couple who'd just gotten engaged. James's eyes narrowed sharply. "Grace, let me explain. Nicole said she'd moved from California to this small town with nothing. She just wanted a nice picture to keep. I only felt sorry for her. You took pity on her. And that's why you stole my mail?" "It wasn't stealing," he said quickly. "I just figured college wasn't right for you. Daniel and this family still rely on you. Nicole is different. She's young. She doesn't have the same responsibilities. She can go farther." I looked at him. So that was what he really thought. It wasn't that he didn't know I wanted to leave. It was that he didn't think I deserved to. "James, I've been married to you for over 10 years. I took care of your home, raised Daniel, paid the bills, made the mortgage payments, cooked your meals, did your laundry. I held our whole life together." My voice was quiet. "And you traded my entire future away to curry favor with Nicole." His lips trembled. Then without warning, he dropped to his knees. "Grace, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Nicole seduced me. She said she wanted to go to college, wanted to leave this town, and I was too weak to say no." He was crying, tears and snot running down his face. "Please drop the charges. Think of Daniel, don't lock me up. What's he going to do without me?" "Daniel is 15, I said coldly. "He has to answer for his choices. And so do you." In the next room, Nicole's voice was even shriller. She was talking to Robert and a female deputy. "I'm the real victim. James said those papers belonged to me. Grace never meant to go to college. It was just a silly game to her." Robert asked, "Then why did you put Grace Whitman's signature on those forms?" Nicole's crying stopped for just a second. I had no idea it was her name. I just thought it was a standard sign-off form." The deputy slid another paper in front of her. "What about the financial aid paperwork? It lists her birth date, household income and marital status. Are you saying you knew nothing about this too? Nicole's face went pale inch by inch. Then she saw me standing in the doorway. She lunged for me, clinging to me as her last lifeline, but the deputy pushed her back into her chair. Grace, please stick up for me. You've always been kind to me. You can't let my life fall apart like this. I looked at her and said nothing. Her meek facade shattered, raw jealousy boiling to the surface. What makes you so special? She hissed, barely above a whisper. How come a married mother beat out everyone in the county? What do you have that I lack? I finally smiled. What you're missing is this. What you stole will never truly be yours. Nicole stared at me like she wanted to tear me apart. I turned and walked out. On the steps outside the station, Daniel sat under a dim streetlight. He was tall and skinny, still not fully grown, yet his features already held the bitter malice of a chronically spoiled child. He jumped up when he saw me. Are you happy now? You've wrecked Dad and Nicole's lives. I stopped. They ruined themselves. You're just jealous Nicole's outshining you. She's heading to college and moving to the city. Unlike you, she won't be trapped in the kitchen all day. I looked at him and felt nothing. In my past life, I searched for him for 20 years. Back then I thought I was looking for my son, until he told me on his own that he'd known the truth all along. All that time I'd been searching for a child who never really existed. Daniel, I said, my voice calmer than I'd ever used with him before. From now on, your life has nothing to do with mine. He froze. What are you talking about? It means I'm through buying your meals, cleaning up your messes, and letting the title of mom drag me back into that nightmare. For the first time, panic crossed his face. You can't do this. I'm your own flesh and blood. I used to think that meant something. I looked him in the eye and spoke slowly. But you tainted that bond with your own hands. Then I turned and walked away. This time I didn't look back. The case wasn't resolved overnight, despite all the gossip tearing through town. First came the hearing. Then the state university revoked Nicole's admission. After that, the postal inspector and the county prosecutor got involved. James and Nicole's lawyers tried to make it all sound like a family misunderstanding. But the documents, the handwriting, the mailing records, the photo studio pictures, and the statements from more than a dozen neighbors at the party, they wove an inescapable net around the pair. In the end, both of them accepted a formal plea bargain. James was convicted of mail theft, forging enrollment paperwork, unlawful restraint, and related domestic violence charges. He got time in county jail plus fines and probation. Nicole was convicted of helping forge documents, attempting to use someone else's financial aid forms, and letting Daniel start the fire. She got a short jail sentence and long-term probation. They didn't leave town in victory like they did in my past life. Everyone watched as they walked into the county courthouse with their heads down. After the verdict, with help from a local nonprofit legal aid clinic for women, I filed for divorce. First, James refused to sign. He sent me several letters. The first one said he was sorry. The second said Nicole had tricked him. The third called me names, said a divorced woman with a kid would never get real respect, even if she went to college. I handed every letter to my lawyer. Eventually, he stopped writing. A month later, I took my acceptance letter, a worn leather suitcase, and the $20 Margaret Turner had secretly slipped me, and boarded a Greyhound bus bound for the state university. It was early morning. The town was still asleep. The streets outside the window were wet. The neon sign at the diner was still on. A faded old song played on the radio. The driver tore off my ticket slip and handed me the remaining stub. I held it like a ticket to a new life. College was harder than I'd imagined. I lived in the cheapest dorm, sharing a room with two girls straight out of high school. They went to the movies on weekends and tried on lipstick at the mall. I spent most of my time in the library. I went to class during the day and worked at the campus dining hall at night. On weekends, I helped run the sign-in desk at the computer lab. There were vintage CRT computer terminals inside, their screens glowing green, their keys clicking with every stroke. The first time I saw those machines, I stood in the doorway for a long time. I realized all at once that the world was moving forward. And this time I wasn't being left behind. A year later, James showed up at the campus gate. He wore a beat-up leather jacket. His hair was a mess. He looked like life had worn him down completely. His eyes lit up when he saw me, and he hurried over. Grace, I finally found you. I stepped back out of his reach. What are you doing here? His eyes got wet, his voice thick. Grace, once I got out, I saw the place fall apart without you. Daniel's out of control and runs with the wrong crowd. He won't admit it, but he misses you badly. I looked at him and felt nothing but disgust. So you came back because no one cooks for you and no one deals with Daniel? His face stiffened. That's not it. I truly want a fresh start. Let's get remarried. Daniel needs a full family unit. James, I said calmly, has prison addled your common sense? His face turned red. Don't get above yourself, Grace Whitman. You think that college diploma makes you something big? Don't forget your past. You're divorced with a kid. Who else is gonna take you? I was about to answer when a clear voice came from behind me. She doesn't need a man's approval to have worth. I turned. Amanda Clark stood on the steps, holding a stack of textbooks. She was the student body president, and the first real friend I'd made here. Amanda walked to my side and gave James a cold stare. Grace is a top student and a scholarship recipient. Her worth doesn't need a man to prove it. James looked her up and down, shame and resentment flickered in his eyes. Who are you to talk? This is between me and my wife. Ex-wife, I corrected him. We're divorced. Students passing by stopped to watch. Some frowned. Others whispered. This wasn't that small town where everyone just listened to whatever James said. James saw that no one was on his side. His tone shifted. Grace, Daniel's running a fever. He keeps calling out for you in his sleep. Just come check on him. Even if it's just for a minute. If he's sick, take him to a medical clinic. He's your flesh and blood, he shouted, his voice rising. You're off enjoying city life, and you're turning your back on your own boy? Amanda stepped in front of me. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. My roommate walked over too. Grace, do you want us to call campus security? James's face alternated between red and ashen. He tried to shame me into giving in just like he used to. But this time, the people standing next to me weren't cold-eyed neighbors from a small town. They were my friends, my classmates, the people who had seen me build a new life. James finally turned and left, grinding his teeth. That was the last time I ever saw him. Later, I heard that both he and Nicole had left town. No one would hire them anymore. No one invited them to barbecues. No one believed their misunderstanding stories anymore. They drifted westward until they vanished into some desolate, forgotten corner of the country. As for Daniel, he left home when he turned 18. He sent me a postcard once. No apology. Just said he needed money. I didn't write back. Years passed. I got my degree, then applied to graduate school, focusing on computer science and business systems. Those years, tech companies were sprouting up across California like weeds after rain. I started with basic data entry and slowly established myself in this new industry. Amanda stayed my friend through all of it. Later, I met a man who was kind and respectful. He didn't try to save me. He didn't ask me to forget the past. He just stood beside me and said, Grace, your life didn't start with me. It's always been your own. We married. A year later, our daughter was born. Holding her in my arms, my eyes filled with tears. In this life, I finally had a home that was truly mine. As for the ones who stole my life before, they're stuck living in the misery they created for themselves. I still have a long road ahead, and my future burns bright.
This is Listening Novel. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe for more stories, and stay tuned for what's next.